0.1% doesn't seem much. However, what would horribly, catastrophically, go wrong if it was off by 0.1%? If 0.1% of all airline flights crashed, there would be around 87 crashes every day. I wonder how many car crashes there are every day. Edit. Marks all in Barks tabs as read. More than 87, I reckon. But there's more than 87k cars on the road per day. I still agree with him. There are probably more than 87 crashes in a day. I can confirm. There are more than 87 car crashes a day. Moving images on a Word document. Edit. Yes I do actually know that rap text exists, just let me attempt to be funny also. Thank you kind strangers for the gold and silvers. Anything NASA does. All that space shit for sure. We are aiming for the moon, Ash. We didn't go to the moon because it was easy. We went because we were 99% sure we could. 99*9%. We made it 99.9% of the way to the moon. Actually, that's 200 miles or so, which was pretty much a Apollo 8's orbit. So, true. We just also made it that last 0.1%, half a year later. Proton charge plus electron charge. That comes out to 0, right? What would the effects be if it were minus 0.1% or plus 0.1%? Edit. Yes I know that 0.1% of 0 is still 0. What I meant is plus 0.1 or minus 0.1 charge. All atoms in the universe are now electrically charged and all in the same direction. Chemistry is fundamentally different in that scenario. If chemical compounds can even remain stable, the Earth would have a charge of something like 1027 coulombs. You would have a charge of something like 105 coulombs. The force between you and the Earth would be around 1022 newtons. Of course both you and the Earth would be exploding. Username checks out. Rocket angled an extra 0.1% to the left. At larger distances that adds up. Aiming for Saturn. Found Io instead. Aimed for Duna. Found Dres instead. Just about the only time anyone visits Dres. You duckers act like you forgot about Dres. Everybody forgot about Dres. Wouldn't it be hilarious if they didn't have it in KSP2? Wait, is there going to be a KSP2? Carbon content in steel. Steels such as 1095 steel are literally just iron with 0.95% carbon in the composition. A difference of 0.1% carbon content would dramatically change the properties of the steel in question. This is true of other chemicals and alloys, but carbon is the most well known. Molybdenum is added at proportions of like 0.05% and still makes a big difference in properties. Absolutely. In WW2, Germany was short on molybdenum, so we used vanadium for our tanks instead. This resulted in a more brittle steel which often lead to catastrophic failure in battle. Alloys are the most important thing in steel along with temperature treatment. Get up and someone is going to have a bad day. In Albert Speer's memoirs, you can really feel how much impact the loss of specific mines in Eastern Europe had on German production. We are talking about if we lose this mine we are cooked in 6-month statements. It's a fascinating, albeit biased, book. Edit. Inside the Third Reich. Read it, but take note of what others have said. It's easy to distance yourself from all evil when all the witnesses are dead. The United States Postal Service delivers 187.8 million pieces of first-class mail per year. If 0.1% of those go missing, that's 187,800 missing items. Did I say per year? I meant per day. Are you sure this isn't already a fact? Mailman here. That sounds a little high, but if you said, say, a tenth of that, it wouldn't surprise me. Postal clerk here. I do see a lot of missing packages and letter inquiries, but the good news is that we find almost all of them. With such volume flowing through the plants and retail offices, you know some pieces are going to get lost or destroyed. Edit. I'm in no way a spokesman for the USPS, but I'm just trying to help shed some light on how massively impossible the daily operations are like. Please stop the hate messages. Hand sanitizer. It'd go from killing 99.9% of bacteria to killing 100%. You thought you were just cleaning your hands because you got some ice on them at the gas station and it still smelled odd, but little do you know, you've just brought about the end of times. Your hand sanitized hands immediately have no surviving microbiotic life, and the purging energies of pure lonely continue to surge forth. Bacteria all across the gas station suddenly die in an ever-expanding circle of bacterial annihilation. Your gut microbiome dies, which will lead to horrible nutritional imbalances down the line. Corpses stop decomposing. Everyone sick with flu suddenly seems fine again. But fine they are not. It takes days for the purge of all bacterial life to really start to sink in, but it soon does. All plants begin to wither and sag into dead tatters. They had needed bacteria as an essential step in their respiration. Too bad now they're all dead. The dying plant biomass won't rot, as rot is no longer a thing that is possible. Or, at least, not at any time scale we're used to. It'll just stack up endlessly, smothering entire ecosystems in dead waste. Or animal wastes begin to accumulate and pile, with no bacterial life, to recycle waste into nutrients for the environment. Grazing animals can still eat at the dead plant matter, because it isn't rotting, but it doesn't matter. Grazers probably die first. Not only are plants they eat no longer reproducing, but they can't even digest cellulose anymore without gut bacteria. They'll slowly wither away and starve to death in fields of dead grass. The food chain just had a fundamental link severed. Predator animals die next. Their prey is dead, emaciated, and largely nutritionless, and their own digestive systems are poorly functioning without those all too missed gut bacteria. Rapidly, entire ecosystems experience total catastrophic collapse. Faced with a total failure of every natural system, humans see their death approaching as sure as the setting sun on the horizon. As the last man dies, he may wonder what horrid act of God brought about the end of times, and what humanity had done to earn such a fate. He never knew that true villain was Peel, and that the first victims of this apocalypse were things he'd never stopped to value in life. Ironically enough, humans were less than 0.1% of bacteria, mass-wise. The apocalypse had already happened the moment the gas station sanitation wave was unleashed. This was just the dust settling. Notes and errata. Many have been sure to point out that influenza is indeed not a bacterial infection. It's viral. Sorry flu sufferers. You've got to endure the apocalypse with your stuffy nose intact. Some have asked how bacteria enter the equation for plant respiration. The short of it is that many bacteria species help by converting atmospheric nitrogen to a usable form for the plant's metabolism, while other species help with water absorption. Find much greater detail here. Memes aside, the reason they don't say 100% is because the chances of you hitting every crevice of your hand is rather small. Bacteria doesn't survive it the same way humans don't survive napalm. If you live it's because it missed. Certain species of bacteria can also grow tolerant of alcohol. That's like if you could expel the napalm from your body before it damages any organs. I have a little napalm every day to build up a tolerance. I shoot myself with smaller bullets to build resistance to larger ones. Trying to follow your mom's instructions. Looks at recipe. How much is a smidge? About a C hair over a dash. Boggle. How do you not know this? Edit. I went with the general C hair. Sorry for the confusion. I mean, let's face it, what color is just splitting hairs at this point? It's a recipe. Just follow the directions. A worker at my dad's metal processing plant made an error even smaller than that, I believe. It was a small metal part for machines that make plastics, so they need to be quite precise. They ran out of one metal length, so they were making the part out of a slightly longer metal to start with and just trimming more of it off for the final product. The initial trim left in excess of 100 microns, which even on a plate that is 1 inch in size is just something like 0.003% of the size. A worker failed to double check since they were so accustomed to the normal metal size being used and cleared the metal through for the final processing. Well, it turns out that excess 0.003% made the material unusable after it was finished, and it cost the company over $13,000. Precision machining boggles my mind. I work in an ammunitions plant. Being off by just 0.001 with respect to concentricity, length, width, etc. can cause $1000s in revenue to be scrapped. I have seen scrapped parts up north of $90k. The guy didn't get fired, only written up. That money is nothing to billion-dollar companies. 0.1% daily increase in anything would be a disaster. Imagine every day you'd have 0.1% more cats. If there are, I dunno, 100 million cats now, there would be 144 million in a year, 3.8 billion in 10 years, 150 billion in 20. A million billion cats in 100 years. We'd all be knee deep in a sea of cats. Or there would 0.1% more cats killed in shelters. Yeah, that's how we'd fix that growth. But imagine unchecked growth. Like growth of your own cells, for instance. In fact, the actual growth rate of cats is probably comparable if they had all the food, water, medicine, and shelter they needed. Each female cat is capable of cranking out litters of more cats. I think they can have several litters. Edit. Cora says a single cat can theoretically have up to 120 kittens in a lifetime. Accuracy of computers. 1 in every 1000 bits gets interpreted incorrectly. The stock market would get ducked. Flight would be IMPRACTICAL asterisk and HD videos would be UNWATCHABLE asterisk asterisk. Edit. Asterisk by impractical I don't mean impossible. I just mean that modern computation help with keeping things less messy. We could probably work things out with map, compass, and radio. Asterisk asterisk by unwatchable I mean that compression and decompression would make entire frames to not get loaded, and in general the color of many pixels would become different, resulting in a very ugly video. I thank u/spiral_divergence and u/watany for correction/specification. Edit 2. Another unpractical thing would be cable communication, as u/cation Lang pointed out. I would also like to specify that I'm not very tech savvy, so I'm very lost whenever one of you guys suggest a solution to the telecommunication problem. Edit 3. Thanks for all the comments and the karma. Or we'd just improve error correction. Programming. A small bug in code, like a spelling error, could theoretically bring down your application. 0.1% of your average application's code could be hundreds or thousands of lines of code, or a missing semicolon, or delete asterisk from user, executed against a database where the intended table was named use, or when the table in your local database doesn't have a new column, because someone forgot to update the DB changelog script. Once you're done restoring the database, there's gonna be a Greek question mark somewhere in your codebase. Centrifuges for nuclear material, of course. The early 5 version as a virus was left on a USB in the parking lot of the Iranian nuclear program, which some poor schmuck popped into his work computer inside the high security facility. It only changed a few small numbers to make the centrifuges operate slightly faster than is safe to causing them to rip apart, destroying huge, important portions of some of the most expensive engineering in human history. It does basically nothing to non-nuclear material producing computers, which is good, because it has unexpectedly spread all over the world, and may even be on your machine. Source: wikipedia.org/wiki/stuxnet. Yep. That was pretty cool honestly. But really it wasn't 0.1%. The worm would send pulses to the centrifuges while making it appear normal on the DCS panel. Operators didn't know the centrifuges were revving up and then brake checking basically broke the centrifuges bearing due to fatigue. It exploited an unpatched vulnerability in Siemens SCADA software. Haha, thank you for adding. This is why I stuck to the early 5 version. I know too little about either nuclear fission or cybersecurity to do it proper justice. Disk space on Windows 10 computers with nearly full disk. Windows 10 often uses up several gigabytes of disk space to do things such as install updates, and leaves a safe buffer of just 256 megabytes. Now imagine that some Steam game releases an update and you have 0 bytes left in seconds. And 0 bytes free means absolute disaster. It's not like you cannot put anything more on it. Absolutely nothing will save on the disk, and any attempt will generate an error. Websites won't load because cache won't write to disk. Drivers will crash because they tried to write some logs. When you turn off your computer, registry will get completely messed up because it was a few bytes too large to store up. Theoretically, antivirus may fail database update and start deleting everything, and you'll end up having to reinstall Windows. Boots into through manuscript DOS on a flash drive. Deletes movies.